I'm Lexi. I'm the foster coordinator from the Animal Rescue League, and I'm going to teach you how to bottle feed an infant kitten. We have all of our supplies here that you'll need to get started. So we have formula choice here, which is Breeder's Edge formula that we use here in the shelter. Other choices are KMR. Then we also have a scoop to mix the formula. It can be any size as it's based on a ratio. And then we have a bottle with the nipple, a blender bottle or any other sort of container to mix it, and then some cold water for stirring together. Now that you have all your supplies together to feed your kitten, I'm going to show you how to mix the formula and prepare it. So we use Breeder's Edge here. It's a 2-to-1 ratio of water to formula. Any sort of formula that you get will have a ratio usually on the back or measurements that you can use, so be sure to follow those instructions if you're using a different formula. So since we're just doing it for one kitten, I'm just going to make a small batch because she needs to be able to use it in the next 24 hours. Try to get an even scoop. It's 1 scoop of formula and then 2 scoops of water. Then we secure it in the blender bottle. Give it a good shake and check to make sure that all the chunky parts are out. Okay. And then it's ready to go in the bottle. Now that your bottle is prepped, you have to warm it up so it's skin temperature, so it's a safe degree for the kitten to eat. In order to do that, you use a hot water bath rather than microwaving the bottle directly, as it will break down the formula contents, including the proteins and all of the good nutrients in that bottle. So we heated this up with a kettle. You can use a microwave for the water at home or whatever is easiest. And then you just pop the bottle into the water, let it heat for a few seconds at a time, checking it probably every 5 to 10 seconds as it heats very quickly. And then test the formula on your wrist. This is still a little cold, so it needs to go back in the bath. You're aiming for skin temperature or a little tiny bit warmer. Any hotter and it can potentially burn the kitten. Okay, so now it's a good temperature for the kitten. So now it's time to feed her. She's obviously ready because she's upset and crying. This kitten is only about 5 days old, so she's very young. She doesn't have her eyes or ears open, and she would be fully reliant on mom. Her feeding schedule is every 2 to 3 hours, depending, and it is even overnight, so she's pretty delicate and needs a lot of care. So before we feed, we always potty to make sure that they go to the bathroom. Mom normally handles this, so now we have to every time they go to wake up to eat. You just gently rub their genitals to make sure that they're going pee, and you will see that they're peeing on the tissue. You want to make sure you're always using something soft like tissue or Kleenex rather than paper towel or anything too abrasive, as it can actually rub their skin raw. So you want to support the kitten so that they're ready to eat, and hold the bottle in your hand like so, with your fingers pointing toward the kitten so they have somewhere to place their feet, like they would push on mom's tummy. And she should latch, and you should see her start wiggling her ears as she starts swallowing. That means she has a good latch and she's getting lots of good swallows of formula. After they eat, they should burp if they need to. Kittens who are generally pretty fussy or eat really quickly will need to burp because they'll get air bubbles. So you just pat gently on their bottom with their head pointing straight up, and usually you'll either feel a burp or you can sometimes hear it. This kitten doesn't need to burp, so she's feeling pretty good, and she might need a top off actually. Sometimes kittens will want to eat multiple times in a row. They won't get their full feeding at the same time. She's being a little fussy, so I think she's full, but it's always a good idea to check. Kittens who are full and happy are generally quiet and pretty content to just lay around in your hand and get scratches. That's usually a sign that they're nice and full and are ready to go back to bed. Make sure your baby kittens are kept inside a small enclosure, such as this cat crate or a small box, or any sort of container like a large Tupperware with the lid removed so that they have good airflow. You want to make sure that they also have room to move off of whatever heat source you're giving them so that they can move away from the heat if they get too hot and crawl back if they get too cold. They rely completely on an outside form of heat, such as mom's body heat or a heating pad, or you can use Snuggle Safe discs like we use here in the shelter. They're microwavable and super easy to use, and you just keep them under the layers of blanket to make sure the kitten doesn't accidentally touch it with their skin and burn themselves. Before you return the kitten to their bed, you want to make sure that you are checking that heat source to make sure it is still warm. It should feel nice and toasty to the touch, and then they have lots of blankets to snuggle in to also help regulate their body temperature. So now that your kitten is fed, you can return her to her crate with her nice warm heat source. And you just tuck her into her blankets, and she should go right to sleep with a full tummy and a nice warm house. And now you can cover her up to make sure that it stays nice and dark and warm inside. And that will keep her happy until it's time for her next feeding. Now that she's all fed and content in her house, you will take all of your leftover formula, both in the container as well as in the bottle, and stick it back in the fridge. It is good for up to 24 hours once refrigerated. After that, you'll want to make sure that you keep track of that time so you can toss it and make fresh. And those are the steps to feeding a baby kitten.